Hello everyone, this is Arado and we're here to talk about the future plans I have for any upcoming banners. I wanted to cover the banners all the way to November/December of 2022 from JP, and this is what I think of the characters who I feel will have value if you pull them and then at least close to where JP is at right now so that you would have some sort of value, some sort of reason to pull for them. And of course, before we start, I want to give a quick shout out to Toko-san. Twitter handle is ShimaToko85 for the awesome Urpina and Orgniana artwork we have on display. And with that, we're gonna start with the first set of banners, which is the Beachside banner. I skipped the Final Fantasy Legends 3 banner. Personally, I don't have any attachment to them because I haven't played the game, and objectively speaking, I checked them out just to make sure I didn't miss anything, and there's really not much value you can get out of the banner, so that's why I'm skipping them. And then even the Beachside banner, the maybe in that one is Narwhal's daughter, and then most of what my recommendation would be coming from the upcoming Saga collaboration. So for the Beachside banner, I put Narwhal's daughter as a maybe, so she becomes an offensive column farmer slash healer because she has an S1 and S3 that has a small for S1 and then medium chance for S3 to heal, a medium effect of healing to everyone. So when you use this skill, you roll for, I believe, 12% and 25% respectively, to be able to do an AoE heal. So other than that, she also has access to Life Rain Plus, which, the same thing. It uses 2 LP and then AoE heal to everyone that can revive. So that's why I put Narwhal's daughter as a maybe, and this is in anticipation for the next Saga collaboration, not the upcoming one, the next one we have currently in JP, the Narwhal form, where she becomes a really good support with buffing. She doesn't have any healing skill, whether it be free or heal that can revive, so that's why this Narwhal daughter would be able to complement that properly. But also, if you have Valentine or the New Year style, I think that's enough for her to be able to either give Water Festival, Trick Carnival, or revitalizing water from her free S style. So that's why Narwhal's daughter isn't really necessary, but would be nice to pull for her. And then the other characters in the banner, Harriet and Falcon, so they start the capability in JP starting this banner where they would buff themselves first and then do the attack after. So most of them would be covering offensive attack like strength or dex before doing the attack, which is decent in farming, but it's kind of limited to farming because when you put that in a hard content situation, it's not really at par with the type of DPS that you're looking for. That's why I kind of set aside Harriet and Falcon. But again, this is my opinion, and somebody else might have a different opinion about it, and they are all valid and correct. So it depends on what your preferences are. And of course, we move on to the big banner, which is the Saga collaboration. So the Saga collaboration has 5 banners, so I'm recommending to pull on 3 of them. The other 2 I'll explain later. So in my recommendation for pull, I wanted to recommend Rock Bouquet, Liz, and Katarina. So Katarina is plain and simple. She has a 1 to 2 hit AoE that can do extra heal on each hit, so 1 to 2 extra small heal for that skill. And then she also has physical mitigation to everyone, which I think is very unique to Katarina, and there hasn't been a character from my understanding that has that capability. So, and then Katarina also has the same ability as Anya, where if you gear her properly, that if you take a damage as a resist, that you would be able to mitigate that further and also be able to dodge that. So that's why Katarina is pretty unique, and I love using her overall in JP. And of course, she is my favorite in Romancing Saga 3, so take that into consideration, because you know that might put into your thinking that, oh, Arado is saying that because Katarina is her favorite. So just keep that in mind. And then Rock Bouquet, same thing. Rock Bouquet has that ability where if you gear her properly, she can dodge and mitigate incoming damage accordingly. But the unique thing about Rock Bouquet is she doesn't rely on intelligence to do debuffing with her skill number 2. It's an all attribute debuff, and it once the attack hits, that the debuff would come with it, not having to roll and relying on Rock Bouquet's intelligence, which is pretty big with how Global has it for the challenges where the souped up status for will and agility and so on, that it's pretty hard to land debuff accordingly. So I would still want to recommend Rock Bouquet as part of this list. And then lastly, we have Liz. So I picked Liz more than Polka and Joe, and I'll get to that later as we progress through this video. So for Liz, the main reason to pull her is having that fast capability and putting up guard up to the party. Even though it's just for one turn, defense is kind of the future in JP. Once we hit the Romancing Saga Minstrel Song banner and events, you would see the damage ramping up pretty steep and high, that you would need some sort of defenses, and you having only moral down in your party is not enough to mitigate damage. So that's why having guard up with moral down and buffing is the way to go, and that's what's more important, and honestly what I'm looking for right now in JP, because you know I'm still stuck in the old meta where we are now in Global, where yeah, I have moral down, I should be able to survive the damage. But yeah, later on I would cover Spiral 190 and you would see how ridiculous the damages are. Alright, other than the guard up for Liz, there's also the technical ability, you know, just like the latest Emilia we have in Global, where if she does certain elements she would get certain buffs. But for Liz, if she does a physical attack she would get something, and then if she does a spell she would get something else, and so on. And then the nice to have for these three Saga collaboration banner is Gustav, which is a really good offensive buffer and would become useful in Remembrance battle. His niche is to use skill number 2, which would give an offensive buff to the party. He would go on countdown, and then the following turn, the turn after that rather, because it's a 2-turn countdown, that he would cast moral up to the party and then keep on buffing the party with attack boost and moral up accordingly. So that's why he helps tremendously in Remembrance battle, but that's the only thing that he can do with that. And of course he gets mitigation out of it. But you know, if you're happy with the Scrum Guard Gustav we have, I would think that would be more than enough for Greatsword battle and protection and stuff. You just gonna miss the offensive buffing. Saga Matcha I put as an asterisk because she is all offensive farming kind of capability with this style. I put an asterisk because there might be a chance that she gets buff where her ability or skill might get changed, and so we would be able to utilize the follow-up skill that she has. So what she does is, for every attack she does, whether it be normal attack or a spell, she has a 25% chance to follow up with Crimson Flare Plus. And then whenever she does an overdrive attack, she would follow up another attack with Crimson Sun Flare. So that's why I would think they might try to put some kind of debuffing for Matcha to be useful, especially with the next style which I love using, and I have showcased that with Spiral 180, that I am more excited for her upcoming style rather than this. And then Polka gains access to a healing that can revive, and because of Steelblade Phoenix we have in global that can heal, that I think Polka Robin is enough. But having this one, you know, having that heal that can revive capability is really useful, you know, in case of emergency. So that's why it's a nice to have but not really necessary. And then lastly, I have nice to have Saga Jo. So Jo, the main shtick for her is to do AoE moral down medium effect and then use her squid attack to heal herself, and then just keep on rotating that. That's why I put her as a nice to have, because I would rather recommend having Dragon Lord Byunei for everyone to pull, because Dragon Lord Byunei would also have the AoE moral down, but she would also have the AoE damage block to the party. You know, she and Byunei can work together, because Byunei might be relying on charging up BP so that she can keep on casting damage block AoE to everyone, and then Jo can just concentrate on being a moral down caster. So it depends on how you would like to approach it. The good thing about the future in Romancing Saga is they now introduce different methods on how you can approach a battle. So just like in JP, there is this template, quote unquote, the template for Spiral 180, 190, and 200. And so people try to copy it, but it's not really their style of play. So they kind of struggle in trying to follow how to best tackle the challenge. So that's why I would say it's both good and bad. Good in a way that you have a guide, but bad that you're kind of forcing yourself into trying to play somebody else's playstyle. So and that's what the game is wanting you to do, for you to discover your own playstyle and then be able to tackle a challenge, you know, not doing the conventional way, and, you know, be surprised that, oh, we can actually do that now, compared to before where we are kind of stuck with the Paean of Victory rapid stream capability, because there's no other option, right? So yeah, the other two, sorry, transitioning back to the Saga collaboration banner, the other two is Orluge, Monica, and Goddess, which I find as a low value. Monica would be a nice to have, if anything, for remembrance. She would be helping increase bow damage. Orluge has that all ailments, so you're kind of covered for staff for remembrance, if anything. And then Goddess has mitigate damage from dark element, from what I remember. And then she finally has some decent AoE that she can be decent in farming. But again, a little lower value than these three banners. The fifth banner is UDX Galahad, which is a 5% banner. He is also a lower value, one, because he would be mainly doing farming, and two, because we already had Arthur who can follow up with Talon for every attack, the first Arthur. So that's why having that Galahad, it might be a miss, but again, Global might change that for something else that we don't know about. Alright, second set of banner. I'm sorry, I'm trying to cover as much as I can, and we're already 13 minutes in. Alright, second set of banner. So we have Dragon Lord Byunei and the Dragons. We have the Halloween banner. We have Romancing Saga 3 and the School banner. So for the School banner, I put as a maybe for School Will. Again, more for remembrance battle, because he becomes a buffer for Hammer, and he has access to Scrum Guard and the Soul song that Eleanor has from Saga Soul. So that's why it's something to think about if that's something that would help you for your remembrance battle for Hammer. And then the must pull for me is Dragon Lord Byunei. Like I said, the AoE damage block is pretty useful, and bonus, if you pull for Summer Byunei, that you may be able to use S1 or S2 during overdrive attack, and that would allow you to give extra defenses or extra attack debuff to the enemy accordingly. And then Halloween Esper Girl is super useful, but I put her with an asterisk, mainly because the the other unit, the other style that you would want to have for this style to be really useful is the UDX style. So you would want UDX S3 and keep on casting that as much as possible. And then Esper Girl has a very large chance to follow up with Telekinesis, which is UDX's style of extra small heal to everyone. And either you use skill number 3 for defenses, or you can keep on spamming Telekinesis, and then she would be able to do a second Telekinesis with RNG based. And again, take note of the asterisk because you would need to have the UDX style for that to be useful. And then I think Halloween Apollo deserves to be a must pull. He was on the edge of nice to have and must pull, mainly because Halloween Apollo gives will buff to everyone, which is pretty useful, and he can spam it pretty much most of the time. I'm trying to find what else he can do. I'm sorry, I have all the pages up just in case I doubt myself of my knowledge. But basically, Apollo is one of those where you can have willpower buffing, and at the same time that he would be able to help the party with passive, where he can give defense boost and he can give defense boost and BP +1 to everyone at a 25% chance. You know, relying on RNG is something, if you are lucky, you may be able to get the best side of it. And lastly, is Buffer Muse. So Buffer Muse becomes the new quote-unquote Payan of Victory, where Muse would buff everybody with will and intelligence, so pretty good for spellcaster party, and also for those stages where you are faced against a lot of spell attacks. So Muse is able to give defense boost to the party and also BP +1 to everyone, and then she also has a free AoE heal that cannot revive. So this is the start where actually the Halloween banner for the Final Fantasy Legends characters, they start the capability of not relying on LP to limit the skill usage, and that's because the upcoming challenge for that is the Romancing Saga Minstrel Song Tower, where if you face Death and Saruin, that you would be dealing with a lot of LP damage, especially Death. So, and it's inevitable. So that's why that's the only shtick for that. And of course, if in case you die in a battle, that you don't have to worry about being in 1 LP. So Muse, really useful buffing, strength, intelligence, will, and love. So she just keeps on spamming that, and that's her shtick, and relying on RNG for that 25% chance to give BP +1 and defense boost, large effect for 1 turn. Every turn starts at 25% chance. And then the nice to have for this set of banner is Halloween Arsenal. So the main reason to pull for Halloween Arsenal is for you to be prepared for the Great Thief Remembrance battle. The mechanic to that is poison. You gotta poison the red thief, and then you try to avoid hitting that red thief as much as possible, because every attack you hit, he would be casting heat up to himself. So that's why you try to avoid that and just kill him with poison. The reason why it's a nice to have, because by the time we reach the bunny banner for the new year, we would get a welfare bunny as part of that, the Saga Frontier 1 robot bunny, and he would have poison skill that would help you for a gun for that one. And then Round Slicer Charles. So I have been using Charles in JP for a lot of times, and I love using him, to be honest, but there's not really much that he can do other than being able to do really good damage with a follow-up with skill number 2, because for skill number 2 he does an endurance debuff, and then he follows up with an extra attack, and both are AoE. So that has been useful for me for Final Isle and farming, but that's about it. He can do Windmill Plus for counter capability, but it's not really useful in a way if the target enemy is not weak against Pierce or whatever element he covers, because for you to take advantage of Charles, you need to be hitting enemy weakness, and at the same time being able to do a single target attack every 3 turns, so that he would follow up with Round Slicer as part of that attack. So there's kind of a lot of conditions for you to consider to take full advantage of Charles that I don't think it's worth it, but you know, if you pull him, he would still prove to be useful for your party. Alright, third set of banner. And this would be the last one. So that would be the 4-year anniversary banner. So we would have new styles for the main characters, Anya, Liam, Darius, Cotton. Sorry, not Cotton, Candy. And then we would also have a new style for Final Empress, Final Emperor. And then we would have the double Romancing Saga Minstrel Song banner. So for the must pull, it's Anya, because she would gain access to AoE heal, and whenever she does a heal spell, that it would give defense up to everyone, so the permanent one. So that's pretty useful, and that heal can revive as well. But what I love to do is using the previous Anya style, because it still has the dodge and the mitigation capability, and then inherit that AoE heal, so that I would have AoE heal and would be able to cleanse enemy buff as well. And then Final Emperor, he becomes a counter tank. I think he is still very useful to this day, especially with Dragon Swoop Plus in Global having that buff with self-healing capability. That would kind of cement how useful Final Emperor is as a counter, but it's gonna be a short-lived kind of thing. But personally for me, I think that this Final Emperor would be useful. The more useful between the two is Final Empress. So Final Empress has a lot of passive, a lot of capability that she is able to do all the time. Her shtick is to be able to cast Moral Down Small Effect every other turn, and then the good thing about this is if you have Christmas style, that you would inherit Holy Moon. So you would do Moral Down, Holy Moon, and so on. You just alternate those two. And then if you need to heal somebody, she already has that as part of her as part of her kit that can revive. And then if she needs to self-heal, she also has that in her kit. She is super useful and like can deliver a lot of support stuff for the party that I have used her a lot in some of the events and hard challenges in JP. And then we go to the next tier of enemy damages, which is the Romancing Saga Minstrel Song banner and event. So we would have Saruin, Sharaha, Minstrel, and then there's also Death, Aldora, and Mirza. So for a must pull for me is Saruin. Of course, he is dubbed to be the new Liam, mainly because he is at 6 LP. He does really ridiculous damage, and he would do at par damage, I would think, if not close to Liam if the enemy is weak against Dark. And he can also help any other party member who is also doing Dark Element. So during the release, I love using Saruin, and then eventually I got School Bertrand, where I have utilized Saruin in a way that the School Bertrand is able to counter with Dominant Blaze and also do Dark Element attacks that he can benefit from the extra Dark attack and extra BP +1 that Saruin gives to the party. So Saruin himself is super strong and useful, and also be beneficial in the future, that he's really high value. And then of course, Saruin's sidekick for a tank would be Sharaha. Sharaha has a lot of defensive stuff in her and also can provoke enemy attacks. And then she counters with a Dark Element, so along with Saruin, that she is able to gain so much BP that she can keep on either debuffing the target or being able to cast defense boost to herself, that would allow her to tank effectively and help the party at the same time. And then lastly, Minstrel. I love using this Minstrel because you can spam Oratorio, and then at Overdrive attack that he can do a medium effect heal to everyone, and that's like Mass Dad capability. My only problem with this minstrel is not having much defenses. So I think he would only have 10% defenses because it goes with the AoE defense up and AoE attack up to everyone with 10%. So pretty squishy. So I love using the music fest style with oratorio and then rely on the that RNG healing and ailment cleanse that that music fest style has, along with oratorio spamming. And then nice to have is RSMS Mirza. So Mirza, we already have the capability that this Mirza can do, where he would have access to AoE healing. The problem is for this Mirza, it's at a very large chance. So I think that's 40, if not 45%. So it's not like our Stillblade Light where it has guaranteed healing at 10 BP. And then the good thing about this Mirza is having that updated ability with the resist to dodge and resist to mitigate and so on, and have heat up as well. So it's kind of like an up-to-date Mirza in a way. But you know, once you are able to get Minstrel, in my opinion, it's done for the banner. And I would rather get Saruin and Sheraha with the remaining banner jewels I had. And then for the maybe, I have the Fort Ear, Darius, and Liam. So Darius has this limited usage of AoE damage block, which is useful in a way, but you know, having that limitation is kind of what turns me off with this Darius. But this Darius has some niche capability, especially in Remembrance, where if you put him in a position where he can mitigate damage, that he would be able to cover as much attack as possible and keep the party alive. And he would, I believe he is able to solo Siegfried Remembrance battle from what I remember. I could be wrong on that one. Sorry about that. I haven't tried it myself, that's why. And then lastly, the maybe for this banner set of banner is Liam. So this Liam is kind of like a step up to the very first Liam. He has a really strong attack with Acrobat Grace, and then he charges up with Frozen Bullet. So Frozen Bullet is water element and slash element together. If you don't need that, I would think the next Liam would be more useful, because the next Liam, if you inherit Wind Bullet to that, and then so he would be able to charge up Wind Bullets, and then at the same time charge up the anti-material shot. He would be able to do 7 shots, the skill anti-material shot, and then 5 of the bullets. And that's the top tier DPS we have right now in JP. And again, going back to that relying on 1 LP situation for Liam. Alright, I'm sorry, that was a lot, but I tried to cover as fast as I can with as much detail as possible. I have some final notes. So I have skipped a lot of banners, and whatever I have shared is what I plan to do until we reach the banner that's considered for 4-year anniversary from JP. So like I said in my previous video, a good character right now should have a lot of capabilities to the party, being able to give passive, you know, just like Astrologist Wagnes that I showcased on Spiral 180, or you know what I noted here, where we would see some characters being able to give passive, like Bunny Emilia giving everyone 25% passive to do AoE party heal at end of turn. So that's 4 times chance of 25% to be able to heal the party. So things like that, and also defenses and any defense buff and any offensive debuff like moral down and attack stance down, those are high value and very welcome as a future type of content to be more prepared for future type of content. And then the self buff performing action, like what I noted earlier with the Beachside Khalid and Falcon, that it was a fun time while it lasted, and then it didn't prove itself to be that useful. I would think if like what I noted here, if they put that in an application where the character is a debuffer and you apply intelligence buff to yourself first and be able to debuff after, that would be something that's really useful, because a lot of times the enemy now has the capability to do buff break on you, and at the same time cleanse any debuff they have, depending on the battle. It's too complicated to discuss at this time. So that's why having that intelligence buff first and then do the attack with a debuff would be super useful if that gets implemented in global. And then the judgment of all these banners are based off how they were implemented in JP. Again, I don't work for Square Enix. I don't have future sight of how the banner would change. I can only predict of what they can do, but only to a certain extent, and that's probably a very, very low chance that I get it correctly. So take everything what I say here with a grain of salt, and of course use your best judgment. Only you would know your own playstyle on how you would be able to cover whatever challenges is coming up, or how you would like to cover a hard content. There's always a different way of covering that. There's not only what I or Share or whoever else in the community would be presenting on how to tackle a hard content. We provide you with ideas, if I can use that term, as a way, one of the ways to tackle that hard content. And of course, lastly, just like how I started, I want to give a quick shout out to Toko-san. Twitter handle is shimatoko85. Toko-san specializes, or actually does, a lot of artwork for Scarlet Grace. And I also sought approval to use a lot of Toko-san's artwork. So more to that in my stream or videos. Alright, we have covered a lot of stuff, and I do apologize if it's information overload, but hopefully that kind of helps you plan for your jewels, see how it's like in the future, what it looks like in JP right now. And of course, if you watch some of my JP content, you would see how the strategy evolved into, first we went for Paean of Victory with Rapid Stream, and then we went for a turtle method, and then now we go for a more aggressive offensive style, and then now we go a hybrid of both. And you would see that in some of my JP content. Most recently would be the Spiral 180. Alright, thank you so much again everyone for tuning in, and see you in the next video or stream.